There's a moment most dog owners have experienced but never really thought about. Your dog does something wrong, you react, you raise your voice or go cold. And then something shifts in the room and your dog changes. But not in the way you'd expect. They don't run, they don't hide, they do something quiet, something easy to miss. And that moment right there is the whole story. The reason dogs are so misunderstood when it comes to apology isn't that they don't feel guilt or remorse. The science on that is actually more complicated than people think. A 2009 study by Alexandra Horowitz at Barnard College found that the guilty look in dogs appears regardless of whether they actually did something wrong. It shows up in response to how the owner's acting, not what the dog did. That's not deception. That's something more interesting than deception. It means your dog has learned to read your emotional state so precisely that they begin repairing the relationship before they even fully understand what broke it. And that distinction changes everything. Because what dogs do after conflict isn't really about the act, it's about you. They're not processing what they did wrong. They're responding to the fact that something between you two doesn't feel right anymore, and they want it to feel right again. Here are the 6 ways they tell you that. 1. They turn their head away and avoid your eyes. Have you ever scolded your dog and watched them look away or turn their whole face to the side? Most owners feel frustrated by this. They think their dog is being stubborn, ignoring them, or worse, doesn't care. But what if that moment when your dog refuses to meet your eyes is the most deliberate apology they know how to give? Norwegian dog behaviorist Turid Rugaas spent decades studying what she called calming signals. Over 30 distinct behaviors that dogs use to reduce tension and de-escalate conflict. Turning the head away, looking to the side, averting the gaze, these are among the most intentional signals in the entire repertoire. Your dog isn't ignoring you. They're telling you in the clearest language they have that they are not a threat. They are not challenging you, they are asking for peace. Think about what it takes to do this. Their instinct when stressed is to scan the environment, to watch the threat, to stay alert. But instead, they choose to make themselves visually vulnerable, to look away from danger on purpose. That is not indifference. That is an act of trust. And here's where most owners make the critical mistake. They interpret the look away as disrespect, so they raise their voice, step closer, try to force eye contact. To your dog, that escalation after they already offered a peace signal feels like a betrayal. It tells them that their apology language doesn't work with you. And over time, dogs who get punished for calming signals stop using them. They shut down. A dog who has stopped trying to communicate with you is not a calm dog. That is a dog who has lost faith that communication is even possible. 2, they make their body smaller. The first thing most people notice after conflict is the body getting smaller, not dramatically, not cowering, just a slight lowering of the head, a shift in weight backward, ears that soften and flatten, a tail that drops just below neutral. Most owners see this and think the dog is scared or guilty, and they move on. But behaviorists who study canine postural communication describe this cluster of signals as active submission. And there's a crucial word there, active. It's not a freeze response. It's not fear paralysis. It's a deliberate physical choice. Your dog is engineering their own body to communicate something specific. I am not competing with you right now. I know the temperature between us, and I'm responding to it thoughtfully. What makes this hard to see is that it doesn't look like much compared to what we expect apology to look like. We expect drama, we expect obvious, we expect something that feels proportional to the conflict. But dogs don't escalate to communicate remorse. They do the opposite. They get quieter, smaller, more careful. And in a species where size and posture carry enormous social meaning, making yourself physically smaller in front of someone is not nothing. That is a significant gesture. 3, they bring you something. Anything. Have you ever come home upset or just finished scolding your dog and they run off and come back carrying something in their mouth? Maybe a toy, maybe a shoe, maybe a random sock. Most people laugh or get more annoyed, especially if it's the shoe. But what if that moment your dog shoved a slobbery toy into your hands was the most genuine peace offering they knew how to make? Dogs are unique among animals in how they use object carrying as an emotional behavior. Studies on domestic dog behavior have shown that retrieving and presenting objects is not purely instinctual. It is deeply tied to social bonding and emotional regulation. Researchers at the Family Dog Project in Budapest found that dogs who present objects to their owners after periods of tension are engaging in what's called redirected affiliation behavior. They can't use words, they can't write you a note, so they grab the one thing that feels significant and bring it to you. They're saying, "Here, this is mine, and I want you to have it, because fixing things between us matters more to me right now than keeping it." The difference between a dog doing this and a cat doing this is that dogs will often bring the same object over and over, waiting for you to receive it properly. If you ignore it, they try again. If you take it half-heartedly, they bring something else. They are persistent in their apology in a way that tells you they haven't given up on reaching you. So the next time your dog drops a soggy tennis ball at your feet after a tense moment, don't just toss it away. Take it. Hold it for a second. Look at your dog. In that exchange, something repairs. 4. They lick your hands or face right after tension. Have you ever raised your voice at your dog and within seconds they're trying to lick your hands, your face, your chin? Most owners gently push them away or think the dog is just being needy. But this behavior has roots so ancient and so deeply wired into your dog's brain that understanding it will completely change how you see the moment. In wolf social structure and in feral dog colonies, subordinate animals lick around the muzzle of dominant ones after tension. It's one of the oldest repair mechanisms in canine social life. And it's not just symbolic. Research published in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior showed that licking triggers the release of oxytocin in dogs, the same bonding neurochemical that releases in humans during physical affection. So when your dog licks your hand after you've been harsh with them, they're not just trying to smooth things over. Chemically, their brain is trying to rebuild the bond from the inside out. They are literally medicating the relationship. And this is where a lot of owners accidentally make things worse, by pulling away. When you retract your hand, when you turn your face, when you stay stiff, your dog doesn't interpret that as you needing space. They interpret it as the repair failing. A dog whose repair attempts keep failing doesn't become indifferent. They become anxious, they try harder, they become the dog people describe as too much, too needy, too intense. The irony is that the neediness was created by the repeated experience of reaching out and getting nothing back. 5. They wag their tail slowly with their body low. This is the apology signal that almost every dog owner gets wrong, completely, and it leads to some of the most damaging misunderstandings between dogs and the people who love them. Most people know that a wagging tail means a happy dog, but tail wagging is a language, not a single word. And the difference between a happy wag and an apology wag is in 2 things: the speed and the posture. A happy, excited dog wags fast. The whole back half of their body wiggles. The tail goes in wide circles. The weight shifts forward. But an apologizing dog wags slowly. The tail is lower, sometimes below the spine. Their weight shifts backward, their head dips, their ears flatten, and their eyes go soft. Researchers at the University of Trento used high-speed cameras to study dog tail wagging and found that the direction, speed, and height of wags carry entirely different social meanings. A slow, low wag in a dog who is also making their body smaller is a classic appeasement signal. It means, I know you're upset with me and I'm not challenging that. I'm asking for peace. Most owners see the wagging tail and assume the dog is fine or over it. They don't adjust, they stay tense, they keep their voice sharp. And the dog who is literally showing you, I'm sorry, keeps getting the signal that the apology isn't landing. Eventually, they stop trying to soften their body and they just brace instead. A dog who has learned to brace instead of reach out is a dog whose emotional relationship with you has started to erode. 6. They follow you. Room to room in complete silence. This is the apology signal that looks like bad behavior, and the one most owners either ignore completely or actually punish. After conflict, some dogs simply follow you. Not frantically, not with whining or pawing, just a quiet presence that materializes in whatever room you walk into. You go to the kitchen, they appear at the doorway, you sit down, they settle nearby. Always at a slight distance, always without making demands. This is so easy to overlook that most owners don't even register it as behavior. It just feels like the dog being a dog. But if you watch carefully, you'll notice it only happens in specific emotional contexts. The dog isn't doing this on a normal afternoon. They're doing it after something shifted. Animal behaviorists call this contact seeking without solicitation. And what makes it remarkable is the restraint involved. A dog who wants attention has no problem asking for it loudly, persistently, physically. But a dog who is apologizing stays quiet. They've made a calculated decision not to push, not to demand, but not to disappear either. They're holding a position that says, I know things aren't resolved yet, and I'm not going to force it, but I'm also not leaving. I'll be here until things feel right again. There's something almost adult about it. What happens when you stop receiving these signals? We've spent so long thinking of dogs as emotional mirrors, just reflecting our energy back to us, that we miss the moments when they're doing something more than reflecting, when they're actively choosing how to respond to us, strategically, carefully, with something that functions remarkably like emotional intelligence. The slow tail wag that most people misread as happiness, the object brought to your feet that most people ignore, the body pressed quietly against your leg that most people take for granted. These are not random, these are a coherent language, and the language has one consistent message. I know something went wrong between us, and I'm not okay with leaving it that way. Dogs don't have the option of sending a text or finding the right words. They have their bodies and their choices, and the choice to stay near you when they could just as easily leave, when every instinct might be telling them the situation is uncomfortable. The choice to stay anyway and wait and remain available. That choice is what apology looks like when words aren't possible. And the dogs who stop making that choice, the ones who no longer follow you, the ones who take their toy to a corner, the ones who were once always nearby and now just aren't, those dogs aren't fine. They're not more independent. They learned at some point that the language wasn't being received, and they went quiet in the way that animals go quiet when they've stopped expecting anything back. The relationship didn't end loudly, it just slowly stopped being repaired.